Hey everyone, it's Ryan1940 here, and we are back at it in DCS. Today we are surprisingly not in a Tomcat, we're actually in a Huey, and we're going to do some combat search and rescue. So we have departed Sakumi. We're going to go about 68 nautical miles to the north into the mountains, and we're going to pick up a downed F-16 pilot who's sitting at an altitude around 8,000 or 9,000 feet on a mountainside. So it should be pretty interesting flying, especially in the Huey, at those altitudes and at a full load of fuel and some weapons to protect ourselves. For those that don't know, on a Through the Inferno server, when a pilot is shot down, there is an infantry member that is spawned in at that location, and that infantry person will broadcast an ADF signal on a certain frequency, and you can tune into that as a helicopter pilot, and that allows you to have a beacon so that you can fly towards them and pick them up. When you get close to them, I think it's about 2 nautical miles or 5 nautical miles or something, they'll say that they hear you, and then they will pop some smoke, and at that point all you have to do is land next to them or hover above them for I think 5 seconds, and that will be recovered on board. And then to complete the whole process, you bring the person back to an airbase or to a FARP, and then you'll get a message saying that that whole process is complete. If I'm not flying the Tomcat, this is easily one of my favorite things to do on this server, because if the clouds are right, just like it is today, mountain flying with the Huey, trying to recover somebody and then navigate through the peaks and valleys, but also staying under the overcast is just a lot of fun, because it can be challenging at times, because when you're up at those altitudes, you can't really strain your engine too much because it will cause you to crash, and you kind of have to think about where you're going, because you definitely need some outs in case you can't pull enough power to get over a peak or something like that. So this to me is one of the favorite ways to fly in DCS, actually. And I have to be honest, this is, when I was experiencing this earlier today while this was being recorded, it was extraordinary, because I haven't done this sort of flying in DCS with the Huey in the mountains for a long time, and I think I was doing it in 2.5 and 2.6, but I never have done it in 2.7. So, and the reason for that actually was because I picked up the Hind, and so every time I would fly that online, I would be doing these attack missions that in this server are spawning, I think north of Tbilisi, near the Vaziani Air Base, and around sort of that area, and it's not that mountainous where you're engaging targets. So to see these mountain visuals with the weather effects that we get now in 2.7, plus the lighting effects that we got in 2.5 and 2.6, it's just, I was really happy flying this at that moment. So we've got 19 minutes left before the server restart. When we first started and left Sakumi, I believe it was around the 45 minute mark. So we've traveled some ways, and luckily there is a FARP nearby, and the pilot should be ahead of us over this immediate peak on the opposite valley above where the forest line is up on the mountain there. So we don't have that much longer until we pick him up. And then we can hopefully take him to the nearby FARP, which should be, I think, 10 minutes away. So we're going to cut it pretty close. Usually I like flying the Huey because it's like a relaxing experience, but when it's kind of like this, where we're under the gun and then the weather is kind of iffy and we're flying in high altitudes, it kind of does get your heart rate going, but I do love this helicopter. I think the Huey was my second complex module. When I first started in DCS, I came from Arma, and that was because Arma had come out with a Jets DLC, and I have always been into flight sims before that, so I was kind of excited for it. And then when it came out, just the flight physics in Arma for aircraft, I mean jets, I think specifically, are awful. When you kill the throttle, it has this weird effect on your altitude, like instantaneously, and it's kind of I don't know, if you're really into sims, it's kind of hard to get through that, and some people can do it, but I just can't. So I just stick to helicopters. And anyways, I was at that point really curious about seeing if there was any sort of flight sim that had combat in it, because I did like, clicking switches and stuff like that in Flight Simulator X. And when I saw that the DCS existed, I first tried the FC3 pack, and I don't know, I didn't like it so much. Then I got the F5, and that to me really got me into DCS, because it was the first time I really enjoyed the physics of flying the thing, and I did like all the switches and stuff like that, so it was really fun. And then after that I went to the Huey, and then I fell in love even again, because that was the first time I felt any sort of realistic helicopter simulation. And I experienced the vortex ring state for the first time, and figuring out how do you get out of that and doing things like that. So it was a lot of fun, and I hope in the future that we see more sort of transport utility helicopters. I know a lot of people don't like them because they're not sexy like the Cobra or the Apache or something like that, but I really would enjoy, honestly, like flying something humongous like a CH-53 or a CH-46 or something like that. I know a lot of others would love the CH-47, the Chinook. So I'm hoping in the future that sort of option comes into play, because I really like doing stuff like this, where combat search and rescue. So being able to do that in other helicopters would be really cool. Okay, back into the action now. He's heard us, so he's popped his blue smoke. We've come around to line up with his smoke. I want to face into where that smoke is blowing, because that means we're going to be flying into the wind. We're going to hover over him so we can recover him pretty quickly. It doesn't look like it's really flat over there, and I don't know, I don't want to keep trying to find a spot to land. I want to quickly recover him. It takes like 5 seconds. So we'll get him, we'll pull off to the left, and we'll go down slope and quickly build up into translational lift, and then hopefully maintain this altitude or close to it on the way back. We'll head to the FARP. I think we've got like 10 minutes left at this point before the server resets, actually. As we're coming in, we're watching our vertical sync rate. We've also got 2 trees. One's immediately in front of the smoke, and there's one sort of hidden behind the smoke there. Out of all the places this guy could have been holed up, he decided to park himself between a couple trees. So that's not an issue. We'll just keep our eyes on it, and we'll start our hover and start to take him on board. Alright, we've got the pilot on board, and we're gonna start moving over to the northwest and cyclic forward so we can build up some airspeed. We need to get beyond 40 knots, I guess, to get into that translational lift, and it should help us out because we are straining the engine while we're doing this hover here. It's moments like these I wish the Huey had the speed of the Hind helicopter, because that thing can absolutely haul butt. Well, when I stop and think about it, though, I can't hover at all in the Hind. I'm very bad at it. I'm very bad at approaches still. I haven't been flying it as often as I should to become very proficient in it. So I guarantee if I tried to rescue that pilot in a hover, I would probably slam the helicopter into the hillside and require we send another combat search and rescue out to recover all of us. So. And once again, like, I sound like a broken record, but the visuals in this are just amazing. Like when we're coming over the hilltop here and seeing part of the peaks on the left side there covered by some haze, it looks amazing. Like, I just love it. And so the FARP should be, the peaks far ahead that are lit up by the sunlight should be a little slightly beyond the tallest peak there that's lit up by the sun. So we're not too far, but I think we're getting close to like the 5-minute mark at this point. Another helicopter I wish we would get in DCS is the AH-1, like the whiskey variant for the Marine Corps. I'm not too excited about the Apache. I think the Apache's really cool and all. I guess maybe just because I don't have any sort of nostalgia or emotional attachment to the thing. I'm not quite as excited about it as I would if we had like a whiskey Cobra. I used to live in Hawaii as a kid, and Hawaii hosts the RIMPAC War Games, and that happens, I think, I don't remember, is it like 2 to 4 years or something like that. And when we lived in Navy housing in one of the areas, part of the Navy housing was close to, I guess, like these rundown naval warehouses that were empty. So whenever they did RIMPAC, the Marines and stuff would come in and fake assault it and things like that. And I was a kid back then, so I didn't know all that kind of stuff was going on. And there was a time when my brother and I, my little brother, we could play in these banyan trees that were over the waterfront, and we could sneak into where those warehouses were, and we were kind of doing that, but hanging around the fence, not getting too far into the warehouses. And all of a sudden, two AH-1 whiskeys fly overhead. They circle back. The two of them start to hover, and they're kind of just looking around and stuff like that. This is like really close to us. Not long after that, we kind of hide in the trees and stuff. And not long after that, I can't remember what helicopters they were. I think they were CH-46s that landed sort of on the pier area and dropped off a bunch of Marines, and then they started going to clear all the buildings. I mean, I was a little kid, so at that point, I'm thinking that we are in so much trouble. Like the whole response was because of us and everything like that. And so we just, my brother and I, we booked it out of there. And after that, I mean, I was seeing that helicopter and how mean it looks. Like it's like ingrained in my brain. And I was in the Navy myself, so I've always been around Marine Corps equipment. When you're with like a expeditionary strike group or something, you might see them operating, or you see them flying into Navy air bases and stuff like that. So I would absolutely love flying a Whiskey Cobra in DCS. Okay, so now we've got the FARP in sight. We are under the 5-minute mark. I think we've probably got 3 minutes left, I guess. And you can see here we've got some ground to cover still. Luckily, the smoke is blowing away from us. So that's perfect, because the way that it's oriented right now, I like to overfly where I'm going to land in the Huey, and then I circle back. And so that way I can see where I'm going to land. I could then do like a turning, banking turn where I'm descending at the same time and bleeding off some airspeed. So this is good because we can just bleed it off really quickly and hopefully get down on the FARP with relative ease, basically. That works out just perfectly, getting into the wind. Well, as you can see, that was a quick 3 minutes. The server has broadcast a message saying that it is now in the process of shutting down within the next minute. So we're luckily we're where we need to be. We're turning into the helipad right now at the moment, and hopefully we'll get down so that way we can count this recovery of the pilot and be done with it. I'm amazed that it got down to this far. I didn't actually think I was going to make it, to be honest. Obviously, I'm doing this voiceover after the fact, and so I'm going through the footage here, and there's stuff that I didn't notice when I was landing because I was so focused on landing, is just the way the clouds are and stuff in the distance and in the background. They look really great. It's good to see that the Eagle Dynamics is focusing also on immersion when it comes to environmental effects, and I hope they continue to do that with like damage effects and smoke effects as well, because that really adds to the whole thing. Just having a great looking aircraft doesn't mean much if the world around it is kind of crappy, So it's good to see that. Alright, that'll be it for me, so thank you guys very much for watching. If you want to see more Huey videos, you can like this video, it'll let me know. If you want to help grow the channel, you can subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you all again later. Thank you.